Hey there, and welcome to Women Built Right, the show with a mission to empower women and make construction easier to understand. I'm your host, Sunny Roten, and with my co-host, Ashley Berg, we'll explore different topics on building and construction. Each week, we'll sit down with incredible women who are paving the way and sharing their stories as they build careers and break barriers in today's world. Whether you're a longtime fan or a first-time listener, you're in for an exciting ride, diving deep into the mystical world of construction and supporting women along the way. So sit back, grab your coffee, and put on your hard hat as we break it all down. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Women Built Right, the show with a mission to empower women and make construction more accessible. I'm your host, Sunny Roten, here with co-host Ashley Berg. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the ins and outs of budgeting for construction. Towards the end of the episode, we will also introduce our next Woman Built Right, Cassie DeGhetto, a software developer and mom of one girl. Be sure to listen all the way through to hear her story. All right, so we're going to dive into our topic. So, budgeting. And I am apologizing to the listeners and to Ashley because our first episode, I've never done a podcast before, extremely nervous. And that whole first episode was supposed to be about financing and budgeting. Totally skipped over budgeting.
Right.
We only talked about financing.
Yeah.
So when I went back and listened, I was like, oh, now we got to do one on budgeting. So that's kind of where we are now. So we talked about financing, how you need to go get your pre-approval and figure out how that whole thing works with your down payment and construction draws and everything. But for the budgeting part, it's kind of a broad topic. And every contractor is going to do it differently for the most part. They might have some similarities, but they'll be a little bit different. One thing to understand is that there's two ways that a contractor will do a contract with you as far as budgeting and how they're going to price it, right? So there is cost plus and there are fixed price contracts. So and there's pros and cons to each. With cost plus, it's kind of what it sounds like. So whatever the builder's cost is, what he's or he or she is going to pay to have the work done, you're going to see that cost, and then there's going to be a fee added onto it. And that could be done two ways. It could either be a fixed fee where they say, you know, you're going to pay everything that is our cost, and then we're going to have a fixed fee of $100,000 or whatever they agree on with you,
or maybe a percentage or something like that.
Oh, and that's what you see more often is a percentage.
Okay.
And depending on your area that you're building in and what the market is and how the builders do it, it ranges. And I've seen it be anywhere from 10% to, normally you're right around 20-25, but I've seen people charging 50% and more, which is crazy. That is. I guess it's more in demand, and they can do that. So the pros of cost plus are that you are getting to see every cost that there is, and you're only paying that contractor's fee on top of the cost.
Okay.
Right? And so if the cost goes down based off, like if you made a budget in the beginning and said, okay, we think it's going to be $400,000 for the cost.
Mm-hmm.
But as you're building, lumber and materials start to go down,
right,
you're seeing that cost savings, right? Whereas if it's a fixed price contract, the builder is saying, okay, you're not going to see any of the breakdown. You're not going to see anything I'm paying. I'm going to put together a budget basically, and then I'm going to put a contingency, which is them saying, and usually that's around 3%. A contingency would be in case lumber or materials or something is fluctuating.
Okay.
And that contingency is there to cover that. So unless something crazy like COVID happens again, usually you're not going to see much fluctuation in prices from when you first sign a contract to when you're building it. Like it doesn't fluctuate that heavily, that fast.
Right.
So that contingency is there to cover if there's any ups or downs. And then he'll put his overhead and profit on top of that. But he's going to put a bigger number on top of that cost than he would on a cost plus. Because
he can hide it.
Well, not that. Maybe some guys.
Yeah.
Or girls. But mainly it's to cover her butt.
Okay.
So
if they're off on the budgeting, that will kind of hide that. Okay.
It'll just protect them.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, if something, if they're off on something, they've got more cushion. But you're paying more. So you're going to pay more on a fixed price contract than you were with cost plus.
That makes sense.
Generally.
So they like fixed price because you know what your price is and that's it. It doesn't change. The builder can't come back and say, oh, sorry, lumber went up $10,000. I need $10,000 more because it's a fixed price. They're taking on that
responsibility.
Yeah, sure, responsibility. Whereas cost plus, they're not taking that on and it's on you. But
now, if it were a cost plus and something drastic happens, say something's not going to work as the plan goes along, are they able to go back to the customer and say, this is where we're at, we need to add this? Or do they still, because the contract is signed?
You don't even have to, with cost plus you're talking about? You don't even have to go back and say, oh, sorry, it's basically, hey, here's what the cost is now. So
okay,
you're paying this plus.
So they don't sign it up front and then say, this is it, no more.
That's fixed price.
That's fixed price.
Cost plus is constantly fluctuating.
Okay.
If you budgeted this amount and then 6 months later you get to drywall or wherever you're at
and
it's higher or lower,
skyrocketed,
the customer is going to pay wherever it is plus your percentage. So it's better protection on the builder because they don't have to worry about covering that cost.
Sure.
But it's kind of a gamble for the client because if it's gone down, you're doing better. If it's gone up, you're doing worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another thing to think about is with the financing, usually you're doing a construction to perm loan, which is a one-time closing.
Yeah.
The majority of the time. So if it's cost plus and you make your budget and then the loan officer says, okay, your budget was $600,000 and this is what we're giving you a loan for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if prices go up, that's coming out of your pocket because you've already closed on your loan.
Oh, wow.
So you can't just go back and say, hey, I need more money now.
Right.
So does it make sense though that there are pros and cons to each way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, if you were building a house, which way would you choose?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, can't they mesh them?
Kind of. That's the first one we talked about, the cost plus that has the fixed fee on it. So instead of a percentage.
Yeah.
That's kind of a builder's way of saying it's going to be cost plus, but my fee is this fixed cost right here. And so if prices start to go up, my fee's not going up.
Okay.
It's not a percentage just going up with it.
I think I would take a look at history to see how much things fluctuate and then decide.
Yeah. It's just scary because
absolutely.
Look what happened with COVID.
Right.
It skyrocketed. And then it was a disaster. So a lot of people got burnt and had to walk away from homes after spending a bunch of money. They couldn't afford it anymore. Builders got burnt because their customers couldn't afford it, and then they couldn't do anything about it. They had to walk away.
Yeah.
So then builders are stuck with, or I guess it would be the mortgage company that's stuck with it at that point.
Yeah.
So it's a gamble. But it's a good conversation to have with your builder. Do a lot of research, figure out what's going to be best for you. Talk to your loan officer and figure out, what's your best scenario. So the way that the budget will work is, especially with cost plus, if you're going to actually see the budget breakdown, it's not a fixed price. Because fixed price, you're never going to see it. They're going to tell you on a contract, it's $600,000. It's not going to change.
Yeah.
And that's it. You don't see any breakdown. If it's cost plus, you're seeing the budget. And they're going to break it down into each tiny little category of.
Now, will they come back to you and say, okay, this was the budget and this is what we spent?
Yes.
Okay. That's on the fixed price.
No.
I'm sorry.
That's it. You're fixed.
That's right. So on the cost plus, they'll break it down and say, okay, this is what we budgeted, but this is how much we spent. So that way you can tell whether it goes down.
Yeah, you'll review your budget in different stages of construction. So that you can constantly see what your budget's doing. Because you're going to do draws. And so, you may think your draw is going to be this much, but if prices have gone up or down, it may go up or down, the draw.
Okay.
So you're constantly in conversation with your builder on what's happening with the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they'll break it down. So they'll have a number for dirt and a number for the tractor work and a number for framing and windows and roofing. Everything gets broken down. And so you see every little detailed line item.
I do like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. But I have a lot of people that build and they want to do cost plus, but typically you're going to see that with somebody who's kind of got a cushion and more comfortable if costs fluctuate. If I have a customer that's on a tighter budget, they always go to fixed price because there's that.
There's like, this is how much I have.
Yeah. You don't want to change.
Yeah.
Because you can't have a change. That's
Right.
your budget. So there's, you just
Now,
gotta figure out what
so
works.
it is more up to the customer as far as which way they want to go? Or is it you can go as a contractor and say, I can do both of these for you. Which one would you rather have?
I do both
Okay.
because I understand that you may be a first time home builder. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is your first time you've ever built. Or this may be your 5th home you've built and you're doing all luxury. And
Yeah.
I work with both. And so I like to give people the option.
Okay.
But I let them know, if you're going to do fixed price, I am putting more money on top of my cost to protect myself. So your cost will be higher. But
Okay.
if costs go up, I'm eating that. And,
Right.
And you're protected. And so I'll let people choose. The majority of contractors that I've talked to in the industry, especially in Jacksonville, Florida, they're not letting you choose. And so that's a conversation to have with a contractor when you're trying to choose one, is what kind of contracts do you do? Because a lot of them will say, I only do fixed price because I don't want to argue with you about the price. And you come back and say, why are you paying this amount for framing when my friend's a framer and he said he could have done it for this price?
Yeah.
People would nitpick at that point.
Yeah.
So
sure.
a lot of builders don't want to deal with that. And then they'll just say, nope, this is what the cost is. And I'm willing to eat it if it goes over a little bit. And that's it. And they don't have to do any budget reviews with you. But some builders don't want to take that risk on. And so they'll say, I only do cost plus. And that way I'm protected.
Right.
And you're paying if there's any overages or anything. So it's every contractor is different. You have to figure out what they're going to do. Yeah. Any other questions on budgeting? Okay.
All right.
So we're going to move into the guest segment. So our next woman built right is Cassie DeGhetto. She is a software developer born in Chicago. Moved to Jacksonville, Florida in 1995 to attend the University of North Florida and study computing. Cassie is a world traveler who's explored the pyramids in Egypt, been up the Eiffel Tower in Paris, taken a gondola ride through Venice, and strolled through the Acropolis in Athens. Cassie enjoys being a mother, reading, being active, and pursuing creative endeavors in addition to her love for travel. She's also full of useless facts, so we're going to steal her the next time that we play trivia.
100%. Let's go.
Hey, Cassie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So can you explain to listeners what a software developer does? Because there's different types of developers, right?
Absolutely. So essentially, a software developer can go into dichotomy that falls under either the back end or the front end. So a front end developer develops the user interface that the user interacts with. And that front end developer covers all of the transactions the user has with the system as the user interacts.
Okay.
And then the back end developer, they take data from source to destination, essentially. And between source and destination, you take the data, you extract it, you transform it, and you load it in a process known as ETL.
Okay.
Okay.
What does ETL stand for something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Extract, transform, load.
So
Perfect.
I have a question. Is the back-end developer, is that coding?
Oh, I was going to ask the same question. Okay.
So it is coding. So the front end developer is developing what the screen looks like when you're, like, let's say we're looking at an app. Are they developing like what the buttons and what it looks like?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And
then
then
there's
what
a back end.
happens when
The coding is putting it all together. So when they hit something home, then it actually goes to the home
or
screen.
if you fill out a form
Yeah.
right.
on an interface, then it takes that data and it saves it somewhere.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. So which one are you?
getting
Front
it.
end or back end?
I'm a back-end developer.
Back end.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah.
I do have some experience doing front-end development a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I've been back-end for a while.
So what made you want to become a software developer?
Well, I didn't know what to study
Yeah.
in college. So my mom suggested...
That's a trend, by the way.
My mom suggested that I study computing. And I'm like, okay, well, makes sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What does your mom do?
My mom was a COBOL programmer. So when I was a little kid, I used to play with her flow charting templates as stencils.
Okay.
Nice.
I've always been a person who is like logic and problem solving,
Yeah.
Right?
puzzles and whatnot. So it's just a natural fit in.
Is your daughter like you?
Unfortunately.
So it runs in the family. Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a question on the thing or not, but my daughter has taken several classes in coding, and that I never knew that. That wasn't something that we had in school.
Yeah, no.
So do you feel like that's beneficial for girls growing up to start learning what coding even is?
Absolutely. I feel that it's gotten better over time, but there's more female representation in the STEM field,
Okay.
Okay.
which makes me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is good. So when did you decide that you were going to do software development? You were in college doing computing.
Well, that's what I was studying because my mom said go into computing. You'll always have a job. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
So in college, that's
Yes.
basically. Okay. And so how long did it take you to achieve it?
Well, the amount of time it took me, a typical person to get a bachelor's degree.
Right.
My life experience was, I was young and impulsive and did stuff, so it took me a little bit longer
Yeah,
for my
absolutely.
bachelor's degree. But I want to point out that there's also software developers out there that don't have a college degree and do good with what they do. I mean, there's people who do certifications.
Okay.
And there's people who do things for a hobby,
Right.
right?
Okay.
And I'll give you an example. So, for instance, you have these kids. I'm aware of kids coming out of high school
Right.
making six figures because they
Wow.
dabbled with mobile app development and became
That's
proficient
crazy.
at it.
All right. So all you kids in high school that are listening
That's all right.
to our podcast of women in our
All those coding classes, they work.
middle-aged women, because I know we have all those listeners. So you did it. Okay. So you ended up getting your bachelor's degree, and then did you do any more like training or certifications or anything to further?
No,
Okay.
no, it's just all
More
experience.
on the
Yeah.
job.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay. So you said some kids are coming out of high school making six figures.
Yes, I remember
So-
some instances of that. Yeah.
Is that typical, or like what's typical for starting pay with somebody going into this field?
Okay, so I started a long time ago. So I went into the IT industry back in 2004,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
and I was working for the government. And keep in mind that the government pays a lot lower than the
Yes.
private sector.
Right.
So right out of college, I was making $35K.
Okay.
Okay. That's not bad 20 years ago. I mean, coming out of college. So just imagine not working for the government and doing it today.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It pays the bills.
So what are the pros of being a software developer?
So the awesome thing about it is that it's not industry specific.
Okay.
So you could take your skill set and you could apply it anywhere. So looking at my career history, I've done software development for manufacturing resource planning. I've done it for the banking mortgaging industry.
Okay.
And what I currently do is marketing.
Oh,
Okay. Nice.
That's fun. So did you face any challenges as a woman throughout your career?
Absolutely. Absolutely. None now because I'm established
Right.
and I've proved myself. But as a young woman,
Mm-hmm.
it was very difficult. One, because, well, women aren't thought of as being competent in the STEM field. So I remember, just to share an anecdote, when I was in college, I forget what class it was. I think it was information theory. And I showed up early and saw one of my classmates sitting on the floor in the hallway outside of the classroom, feverishly trying to finish his homework. And I said, I finished mine. But before I could offer him help, he said, who'd you copy from? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to help you anymore.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then the other issue was being objectified.
Yeah.
And maybe that was just my experience at the place I was in. But I've had something, one of the memories that burned in my brain is when one of my male peers had the gall to say something to me, to my face, and I'm not going to repeat it verbatim.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll use the word blank.
Yes.
So your listeners can fill in the blank accordingly.
Yeah.
But what he told me was, Cassie, the first time I saw you here, I wonder how many blanks you blanked to get this job.
Oh, okay.
And for the record, I blanked 0 blanks.
Good for you.
That's right.
Yeah. It's not just you, by the way. We've interviewed a ton of women in all different fields, and they've all said the same thing. That's the biggest thing, is being objectified as a woman.
Yes.
So that's a shame. So how did you overcome
a shame.
how do you overcome challenges like that?
It's just knowing that, accepting that you have to work extra hard to prove yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just persistence, and eventually you will prove yourself.
Yeah.
And get their respect eventually.
Do you argue back, or how do you respond?
I will perpetuate a piece of advice that was given to me while I was on a flight. And this was given to me by a professional who was sitting in the seat next to me. And I was lamenting about my struggles as a young professional. And she said that there's guys out there who just want to get a rise out of a young woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that they don't deserve to be entertained with a response. Silence is golden.
Yeah.
And if you must say something, say, excuse me.
Yeah.
And if they have the audacity to repeat themselves, just say, how dare you?
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And leave it be.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think most of the time, if you were to say, excuse me, they would probably hesitate to repeat it again. So that's a good piece of advice.
Yeah. I like that.
Awesome. Do you have any other advice for women who might be interested in becoming software developers?
Don't break production.
That's probably key in anything. Absolutely.
Just believe in yourself. If it's something you like to do, do it.
Yeah.
And I like what you said earlier about persistence, like sticking with it. Don't let them get you down, and just be persistent and move forward.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
The fear thing is a big thing that I think about all the time. When somebody asks me, like, what's my biggest piece of advice, or, what do I tell other women? You're always going to be afraid. You will always be afraid to take a new step.
Yeah.
Unless you're a psycho, and then you're not afraid of anything. But don't let it hold you back, because you'll never do anything. So be comfortable with being scared and uncomfortable, because that's just how you get through things and overcome challenges and push yourself and develop and become a better person.
Yeah.
So for anybody thinking about doing something that is scared and saying, oh, I don't know how to do it, or what if I can't do it? Don't be afraid to fail either, because failing is a huge lesson. And the failing is the best thing in the world to me, because
That's how you grow.
Yeah.
I mean,
it'll teach me a lesson. I'll know how to do it right the next time. And yeah, just develops you as a person. So failing's not a bad thing. So yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Well, that's it for the third episode of Women Built Right. Thank you, Cassie, for joining us as our guest. And thanks to all of you for listening in. Please check out our website at www.womenbuiltright.com, where you can find out more info about the hosts, notes for each of our episodes, and resources if you'd like to learn even more about construction. Next week, we'll cover the ins and outs of foundations. So please join us again. Thanks.
All right, guys. That's it for this week's episode of Women Built Right. Thank you to our guests for joining us, and thanks to all of you for listening in. Please check out our website at www.womenbuiltright.com, where you can find out more info about the hosts, notes for each of our episodes, and resources if you'd like to learn even more about construction. Next week, we'll cover another exciting topic on construction and meet another woman built right. So please join us again, and don't forget to subscribe.